and then you divide it, then you put that half into the middle, and then you iron it down flat the whole way. And then you take the other half and you push that into the middle to join up with that seam. And you iron the two sides into the middle. And now you fold all of it over to that even seam. So now you pin the strap vertically all the way along, leaving about 3 fingers in between each pin. So now we're going to sew straight stitch along this seam line. So if you notice on the foot there is a U, this U shape here. Run the edge of the fabric along this U here, this line here. When I come along to a needle, a pin, I take it out. When you come to the end of your strap, remember to do a little bit of back stitching. So now I will trim the edges, trim off my threads of both ends. I'm tracing my design onto the smooth surface of the Visifix. So using paper scissors, I'm cutting around my applique design. I'm going to cut off the stick because I'd like the stick in a different colour. So I've chosen this fabric for my ice cream top. This is the right side because it's very bright colour, where this is the wrong side where it's a little bit faded looking. But this is the side I want to use to iron on my ice cream. I'm not going to put my ice cream right in the middle of the fabric. I'm going to put it over to the edge so I'm not wasting. So now I've placed my ice cream on my fabric, still with the shiny side up. The other side is a bit rough, so you make sure that the shiny side is definitely up. Now we're going to put the ironing mat over the top of the fabric and my ice cream top. And now I'm going to iron it. What this does, it fuses the ice cream that I've traced onto my fabric. So we give that a little bit of an iron so it's nice and warm. And now I'm going to do the same with the stick of my ice cream. I've chosen a calico, so I'm going to put the shiny side up, smooth side up, rough side down, put my ironing mat on and iron it as well. So now I'm going to cut around my ice cream, all around the edges of my, now that I've ironed on my applique. Remembering my stick is in the different colour. So to see this design, you may want to change colours for the top piece. And if you do, you need to use your same piece of applique paper and trace around this top part of the ice cream. And I'm going to use this colour for the top part. But we're going to keep it simple for today. So with my ice cream now, we've ironed on the Visifix, I've cut it out, and now I'm going to take off the paper, the shiny paper bit that's on the top, which leaves which leaves the glue that is going to help stick our ice cream onto the front of our bag. So this is the fabric that I've chosen for my bag. I am now going to halve this fabric, so it's exactly in half. So now I need to figure out where I'm going to put my applique ice cream. We don't need it down the bottom because you won't see it down the bottom, and we don't need it too far up because we're going to put a hem on the top here. So I think that this position, maybe a bit lower, will be good for my applique. So now I've brought my work over to the ironing board. It's positioned exactly where I want it. And now I'm going to iron it on. I'm going to make sure my right side is up, because if you remember, on the underside is the glue of the applique. So I'm going to position it and position my stick, and now I'm going to put the ironing mat over the top of my work. And I'm going to iron this onto my bag. The heat of the iron will make the glue of the applique paper stick to the fabric of my bag. So I have ironed that for probably a good minute to make sure it is well and truly stuck on all my edges. So now this fabric and this fabric is fused to my bag. Now we're going to zigzag around our applique design. I am choosing to start here. You may start wherever you like, because what's going to happen, we're going to zigzag across this line, around this line, and the whole way around our ice cream. What I'm going to use as my guide is the line in the very centre of the presser foot. I'm going to run that line along the edge of my ice cream. I'm going to put my presser foot down. I'm going to change. I'm going to make sure that my machine is set on 3 for my stitch width and number 1 for my stitch length. So we're going to start. We don't need to reverse when we start off our zigzag, I'm going to put my needle down into my work, and then I'm going to run it along. Remember, I'm using that line there is along this line here. I will come back to do my pop stick, but at the moment I'm doing my ice cream. So I'm going to keep going to the end of here. I can't see it anymore here, but I'm going to do about another 2 stitches. And with my hand, not my foot. So maybe 1 and 2. I'm going to make sure my needle is on the outside. I'm going to keep my needle down in my work. It's still down. I'm going to lift my presser foot. I'm going to turn it around. I can turn my work around, and then I'm going to, still keeping this line along this line of my ice cream, I'm going to put my presser foot down, and then I'm going to keep going. So I'm now at the end of my ice cream. I'm going to just, with my hand, wheel it to where I can see that I started my stitching, which is there. I'm going to lift my needle up. I'm going to lift my foot, and I'm going to take it out. Using my thread scissors, I'll make sure that there's a nice tail on my work. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to cut these 2 pieces off. I turn it over, and I'm going to cut these 2 pieces off. With these 2 pieces of thread at the back of your work, you may either cut them, or I prefer to tie them off, just so they don't unravel the rest of your work. Just 2 ties. Because ideally you would like the back of your work to look just as nice as the front. Normally with applique, you use a thread that is the same colour as your fabric. I've used the black so you can actually see what I've done. So now we are going to do our side seams of our bag. We are going to open up our bag, and we're going to turn it inside out. So our applique is on the inside of our bag. We're going to make sure our top seams are together. And now we are going to pin it 3 fingers across this seam, or this edge. About 2 fingers, not too close and definitely not too far away. So now we are going to do straight stitch down the edge of our bag. What we're going to do, we need to change our machine to straight stitch. It is, the stitch width is on 0 and the stitch length is 2.5. So we're going to start at the very top. I'm going to now run this edge of my fabric along not the first line but the second line. I'm not going to be looking at my needle, I'm just going to be looking to make sure this edge stays on this line. So I'm going to put my foot down, I'm going to take my first pin out. I'm going to hold my thread and put my needle down. So now I'm ready to go. I'm going to do a few stitches forward, coming here to do my reverse stitch, a few stitches back, and now I'm going to just go all the way, taking out my pins as I go, following that line, not looking at the needle. Just follow that line the whole way down. So I have sewn my seams of my bag, both seams on either side. And I'm going to, so I've done a forward and back at this end and a forward and back on both ends. So I'm going to trim off my threads. It's better to do this as you go rather than wait until the very end. So now we're going to zigzag across this seam, because if we left this seam as it is, it would fray and all come undone. So we're going to change our machine again to 2 and to 3. It is not the same as the applique stitch. It's a wider stitch and a little bit longer. So now I'm going to use my foot again as a guide with the line. That line is going to go exactly over this edge. So I'm going to make sure it comes in a bit so the needle will go into the fabric. So what will happen is the needle will go, one stitch will be on the fabric and the other stitch will be off the fabric, which will make it a very neat seam on the outside. No. Zigzag this side of my bag. So I'm going to put my foot down, I'm going to run the edge of the fabric along that line in the middle of the presser foot. The stitch width and length that we need to change the machine to now is a 3 for your width and a 2 for your length. So I'm going to put my needle down into my fabric and then I'm going to get started running, as I say, the fabric along this edge. So now we're up to doing our top hem of our bag. So we're going to roll the top down. We're going to do 1 centimetre and then we're going to come down 3 centimetres. The easy way to do the top of our bag, to hem the top of it, is to take it over the edge of the ironing board. So open up your bag and slide it onto the ironing board and then roll it down. Make sure this seam is either way, but it needs to be very, very flat. So this goes down 1 centimetre using your guide, and then you can iron that down. One centimetre the whole way around. So I'm just ironing my 1 centimetre, making sure this other seam is very flat as well, using my guide at 1 centimetre. So now we're using our sewing gauge. I'm going to move that to 3 centimetres, and then we're going to fold it over again to measure 3 centimetres. And then So again, using 3 fingers in between each pin, we're going to pin it in this direction, because when you're sewing, you're going to sew along this edge the whole way around it, and it'll be much easier to take these pins out as you go. So now we're going to do straight stitch along this edge for the top of our bag. So I'm going to use, you know how we use the U shape in our presser foot? We're going to now use this edge as our guide. We're going to change our stitch width and length to straight stitch, which is 0 for our width and 2.5 for our length. So we're going to start off, put the needle down, and then a couple forward and a few back. You can start anywhere on the top of this bag. I'm starting here. So take your pins out as you go and just carry on the whole way around. As I say, using that guide along that edge of your stitching. So now we're coming back to our straps that we made earlier. So we're going to use the crimping scissors, which I've already done, to even off the edges, and you have to make sure that both of these are exactly the same length, your straps. So then we're going to attach this to the top of our bag. So we need to put your seams that you have sewn facing in on your bag. Make sure that your strap isn't twisted at all. And then we're going to measure 10 centimetres from this edge, and we're going to pin that side, that strap, onto one edge of the bag. So not the bottom part, but just on one side of it. And then we come over to this side, there's 10 centimetres, and we're going to put it even with that seam, and we're going to pin it onto here. I'm just using one pin at the moment, just to make sure I position them properly, and then I'll go through and put 2 pins, one on each side. So as I sew them, it'll be nice and secure. Now we're going to, as our last step, sew on our handles. So we're going to start making sure that our bag is in half, open. We're going to put that half underneath the plate, the sewing plate, and we're going to position the handles so they are nice and smooth, so you can see exactly where you need to sew. You have to make sure things aren't all bunched up. It just needs to be all nice and neat. So we're going to start. You can start here as well as wherever you like. I'm going to start at this top corner up here. I'm going to put my foot down. It's going to be straight stitch, which again is 0 and 2.5. Okay, so we're going to put the needle down. I'm going to take out this pin, and then I'm going to go forward, put my needle down, forward a few stitches, then back, and then forward. I can see where this line is coming because it's going to, we don't want it to go up here because it won't catch the other part of the bag. So I get to about here, my needle down, my pin out to about just to that side of the handle. I'm going to turn it around. You may want to put another pin in here if you want to, which will help it stay still a bit. Then we're going to go down the side here, hopefully on the seam that you've sewn there, taking that pin out to not all the way down, just a couple, We're going to keep it down, up the presser foot. See how I'm swinging the bag around with it? And then I'm going to go down. I'm going to go across where we've done our zigzag cutting. Down. I'm going to keep it down. And I'm going to go around again and up that side. To the where I get to the beginning where I started. And then I'm just going to do a few back stitching and then up to the where I started. And we're going to do that for the whole 4 of the handles. I have just finished putting our straps on, and we are now up to the fun bit, which is turning it all inside out to see how well we've done. So we push out your corners, make sure your corners are beautiful and crisp. Make sure your corners are beautiful. And there you go. What I'll do now is I'll take it over to the ironing board, give it a press, and there you are.